The sky was painted with soft shades of orange and purple as the sun dipped low beyond the fields. The road home was long and empty, lined with wooden fences, tall grass, and old barns. She liked it that way. Peaceful, predictable, just the way her people lived, quiet, simple, and away from the chaos of the world. She was driving a small, old pickup truck, its engine humming gently beneath her. Her black bonnet was tight around her face, and her plain blue dress brushed her ankles. No radio, no phone, no rush, just a sack of flour, a few glass jars from the local store, and her thoughts. She didn't usually drive. Most Amish didn't, but she was one of the few allowed, only for important reasons, only on rare occasions. Tonight, she had offered to help a neighbor in need. He'd broken his leg, and someone had to bring the supplies back for his wife. So she drove, steady and slow, just the way her father had taught her. The wind outside whispered through the open window. A few crickets chirped. The world felt calm, until flashing red and blue lights filled her rearview mirror. Her heart jumped. She blinked, confused. She looked at the speedometer. 25 miles per hour. She hadn't been speeding. Had she missed a stop sign? Was there a curfew? She pulled the truck gently to the side of the road and stopped. Her hands rested on the wheel, fingers tight. Her breath grew shallow. The car behind her didn't move for a second. Then the door opened. A tall white officer stepped out, his belt heavy with tools, and his face unreadable in the fading light. He walked slowly toward her window, one hand near his holster, the other shining a flashlight. She lowered the window with a quiet crank. "Evening, officer," she said softly. He didn't answer, just looked at her. His eyes moved from her bonnet to the wooden cross hanging from her mirror. "Broken taillight," he said flatly. She frowned. "I didn't know. License and registration. I don't have a license. I don't usually drive, only when." His face twisted. "No license. I'm Amish, sir. He laughed, a hard, short sound. "Of course you are." Then he opened the door. Before she could react, his hand was on her arm. Cold, rough, too tight. "Out of the truck." Her voice shook. "Sir, out." She stepped out, slow, afraid. Her boots touched the gravel. The wind picked up, brushing her dress. She was alone, far from home. No witnesses, no safety. He turned her around and shoved her hands behind her back. The cuffs snapped shut with a bite. "Too tight. Sir, that hurts." He leaned close, smirked. "Good." Then he pushed her toward his car, and the peaceful road behind her faded into darkness. The back seat of the police car was hard, the smell of old plastic and dust filling her nose. Her wrists ached. The metal cuffs dug deeper every time the car bumped. She sat still, staring out at the road she knew so well, now slipping away behind flashing lights and roaring tires. She didn't cry, not yet. Her people had taught her to be strong, to stay quiet. But inside, fear was rising, not just for herself, but for what this meant. What would her community think? Would they understand? Would they judge her for driving? For being in a police car? The officer said nothing the whole ride. His face was like stone, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Once, she tried to speak. "Sir, please, can you loosen the cuffs a little?" He looked at her in the mirror, then turned up the volume on his radio. Loud static. She looked away. When they arrived at the station, the parking lot was empty. The lights inside the building were harsh and white. He opened the back door and grabbed her arm again. She winced. Inside, the desk sergeant raised his eyebrows as they entered. "What's this?" he asked, eyes flicking to her bonnet. "Driving without a license," the cop said, his voice proud. "And resisting." "I didn't resist," she said quietly. The officer laughed again. "That's not what I saw." The sergeant didn't ask more questions, just handed him a clipboard. The next moments were a blur. Fingerprints. A mugshot, a cold bench in a cold room. She sat there for what felt like hours, her hands still hurting, her heart pounding. No one told her what would happen next. No one asked if she needed help. No one cared that she was Amish, that she had done nothing wrong, that she was scared. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not for herself, but for the truth, for light in this place full of shadows. Then the door opened, and a woman stepped in, not wearing a uniform, holding a paper and a soft expression. "I'm from legal aid," she said. "I've been assigned to your case." Her voice was kind. Hope, just a flicker, returned. But it wasn't over, not even close. She had never seen a woman like her before. Hair tied neat in a bun, glasses perched at the tip of her nose, walking with calm, steady steps. The gray suit looked sharp. Her voice was quiet but firm. And when she spoke, even the officer at the door didn't interrupt. "My name is Claire," the woman said. "I'm here to help you. Can we talk for a minute?" The Amish woman nodded. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, ma'am." They sat on opposite sides of a metal table. The room smelled like bleach. Claire opened her folder. "I read the report," she said, flipping through a few pages. "They claim your taillight was broken and that you resisted arrest." "I didn't," the Amish woman said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I didn't even raise my voice." Claire looked up, her eyes soft but serious. "I believe you." Something inside the Amish woman shifted. A small breath, a tiny bit of weight lifted. "I was only driving because my neighbor is hurt," she explained. "He needed supplies. I just wanted to help." Claire nodded. "And the cuffs, were they tight?" She showed her wrists. Red marks, skin nearly broken. Claire's jaw clenched. "Did he say anything to you? Insult you?" The woman hesitated. "He mocked my clothes, my faith. He said, 'Of course you were like being Amish made me a joke.'" Claire wrote something down. Then she said something the Amish woman didn't expect. "You don't have to prove anything. You just have to tell the truth." The door opened again. It was the same officer. He didn't smile this time, just stared at the Amish woman like she was dirt on his shoe, then looked at Claire. "She's being moved to a holding cell." Claire stood. "She's being released." The officer blinked. "What?" Claire held up the paper. "Court orders. Her arraignment's in the morning. Until then, she's free to go home." The officer frowned. "You're joking." "I'm not." He walked away, muttering. Claire turned back to the Amish woman. "I'll see you tomorrow in court. I promise you won't be alone." For the first time that night, the Amish woman smiled. Just a little, because finally someone was listening. Morning light poured through the stained glass windows above the courthouse. The old building stood tall and quiet, its gray stone walls carrying the weight of years. The Amish woman stood outside the wide wooden doors, hands folded in front of her, bonnet pulled low to shade her eyes. Her dress was clean, her boots brushed free of dust. Her heart still trembled beneath the calm face she wore. Claire met her on the steps. She carried a slim black folder and wore the same calm face as before. But her eyes held fire this time. "You ready?" she asked. The Amish woman nodded. "As ready as I can be." They walked inside together. The courtroom was quiet but not empty. A few people sat in the back rows. A clerk shuffled papers near the front. The judge hadn't arrived yet. Then the door behind the prosecutor's table opened. The officer stepped in. He wore a fresh uniform, sunglasses tucked into his shirt. His smile was gone, replaced by a twitch at the corner of his mouth when he saw the Amish woman. She looked away. Claire didn't. She walked straight to the prosecutor and handed over a file. The man flipped through the pages. His eyes widened. His jaw moved slightly. Then he stood and walked out the side door without saying a word. The officer watched him go. "What was that?" he asked Claire. "Evidence," she said simply. A minute later, the judge entered. Everyone rose, then sat. The Amish woman stared at the bench. The judge was a woman too, older, with gray hair pinned back and eyes that missed nothing. The hearing began. The officer spoke first. His voice was smooth. He told the story like it was simple. Routine. A broken taillight. A driver with no license. A small struggle. Just another day. Then it was Claire's turn. She stood, calm as ever. "Your Honor," she said, "we have body cam footage from the arresting officer, which clearly shows the accused did not resist. We also have medical photos of her wrists taken hours later, and a written statement from her neighbor confirming why she was driving that night." The judge leaned forward. "Body cam footage?" Claire nodded. "Requested through a court order at midnight." The judge turned to the clerk. "Play it." The video filled the room with sound. The courtroom fell silent as the screen lit up. There it was. The flashing lights. The peaceful voice. The rough hands. The mocking tone. No shouting from her. No struggle. Just pain. When the video ended, no one spoke. Not even the officer. The judge's voice was quiet. Cold. "I've seen enough." The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the ceiling fan hum. The judge looked down at the officer from behind her bench, her fingers laced together, her voice low but sharp like a blade. "Officer, would you like to explain why your report says she resisted arrest when this video shows otherwise?" He cleared his throat. She hesitated. "I took it as hesitation is not resistance." The judge interrupted. "Did she raise her voice? Swing her arms? Pull away?" The officer looked down. "No, ma'am." "Did she threaten you?" He swallowed. "No." Claire stood up. "Your Honor, may I also remind the court that the arrest report made no mention of verbal insults, tight handcuffs, or a peaceful explanation for driving that night. But the footage shows all of it." The judge turned to the prosecutor, who had returned looking pale. "Have you seen this video before now?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, Your Honor. It was added to the file early this morning." The judge looked at Claire. "Who retrieved it?" "I did," Claire said. "The officer didn't mention it when he filed the arrest." The judge sighed. "Of course he didn't." The Amish woman sat still, watching everything unfold like a dream. She had never been in a courtroom before, never seen a judge, never thought she'd have to fight to prove her innocence when she had done nothing wrong. But now the truth was out in the open, and it was heavy. It had weight. The judge leaned back in her chair and spoke firmly. "This court finds no reason for the arrest. Charges dismissed. This woman is free to go." She turned to the officer. "And I expect a full internal review of your behavior. You'll be hearing from my office." The officer said nothing. He looked like he wanted to disappear. Claire touched the Amish woman's arm. "Come on, let's go." They stood and walked out together, leaving behind the cold walls, the lies, and the silence. Outside, the sun was bright again. The birds sang like nothing had happened, but everything had changed. The courthouse door closed behind them with a heavy click. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The steps beneath their feet felt firmer now. The wind touched the Amish woman's face gently, like the world itself had taken a breath for her. Claire turned and looked at her. "You okay?" The Amish woman gave a small nod. "I think so. Just tired." They walked together down the stone path. The street was quiet. No flashing lights. No handcuffs. Just the normal sounds of morning. Cars in the distance. A bird somewhere above them. A world still spinning. "Will he be punished?" the Amish woman asked softly. Claire sighed. "That's up to his department now. But he won't forget today. That's for sure." The Amish woman nodded. "I didn't expect all this." "I know," Claire replied. "Most people don't. But justice has a funny way of showing up when you least expect it." They reached a bench near the edge of a small park. Claire motioned for her to sit. The Amish woman settled gently, her hands resting in her lap. "You didn't have to help me," she said. Claire smiled. "But I did, because someone has to, and because people like him count on women like you to stay quiet. The Amish woman looked away, her eyes following a little boy chasing a paper plane across the grass. My people always said, turn the other cheek. Claire nodded. That's noble, but turning your cheek doesn't mean closing your eyes. For a while they just sat there. The wind played with the edge of her bonnet. The weight in her chest began to lift. Will the video be public? The Amish woman asked. Claire nodded. Likely yes. She didn't smile at that. Not fully, but her voice was steady. Good, because she wanted people to see, not just what was done to her, but how she stood, how she survived, and how she walked away without ever raising her voice. It didn't take long for the news to reach her town. Amish folk didn't use phones or computers, but word of mouth was faster than any signal. By evening, her name had been spoken at kitchen tables, beside buggy wheels, around barns and fields. Some voices carried worry, others surprise. A few whispered in harsh tones. She had been arrested. She had stood in court. She had spoken to outsiders. But many others simply asked, what really happened? Her sisters came first. Quiet and kind, they brought fresh bread and broth, sat on the edge of her wooden porch, and listened. She told them everything. No part was left out. The flashing lights, the cuffs, the courtroom. They held her hands, their fingers soft with understanding. Then came the elders. They walked the path slow, their boots heavy with age. She stood before them with respect in her eyes and truth in her heart. They listened, nodding now and then. Their beards brushed their chests as they leaned forward. And when she finished, they said nothing for a long while. Then one of them spoke. You helped a neighbor. She nodded. You didn't raise your voice. No, you stood tall before power. That takes more strength than most believe. She didn't expect that. Not from them. We live quiet, another elder said, but not blind. The world must know we will not be walked over. And with those words, she felt the final thread of fear break and fall away. The next day, a few young women from her town came to her home. Not for gossip, not for pity, but with questions. What did it feel like? Were you afraid? What would you do if it happened again? She answered all of them, because silence, she now knew, didn't protect you from the world. Truth did, even if it shook the peace a little. 3 days after the courtroom, a car rolled down the gravel path leading to her house. It was unfamiliar, too clean, too loud. It didn't belong on a farm road like this. The tires crunched to a stop just outside the fence. She stood on the porch, apron dusted with flour, a bowl of dough resting beside her. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He wore a blue button-up shirt, a tie too tight for the heat, and carried a folder in his hand. Not a police officer, not a judge, just someone who didn't look like he came from around here. Ma'am, he said, carefully stepping toward her. I'm with the city's Internal Affairs Department. May I speak with you? She gave a soft nod and wiped her hands on her apron. Yes, you may. He walked slowly, respectful, like he knew he was stepping into a different world. He removed his cap as he approached. We're investigating the officer who arrested you, he said. We've seen the video. We've heard from your attorney, but I'd like to hear it from you directly. What happened that night? She told him everything again. Her voice didn't shake this time. She described the drive, the stop, the way the cuffs bit her wrists. The words he used, the silence in the car, the way no one at the station asked if she was okay. How only one woman, the lawyer, treated her like she mattered. The man nodded through every word, scribbling notes now and then, but mostly just listening. When she finished, he looked at her with something almost like shame in his eyes. Thank you for telling me, he said. I'm sorry this happened. She didn't nod, didn't say it was okay. It wasn't, but she did say this. I don't want him to do it to anyone else. His eyes met hers. That's exactly why I'm here. He left a card on the table. She wouldn't use it, but someone else might. As he drove away, she picked up her bowl of dough again. and kneaded the bread with hands that knew what it meant to stay strong in a world that tried to bend you. A week passed, maybe a little more. The fields turned gold under the summer sun. The air smelled of hay, ripe tomatoes, and fresh laundry swinging on the line. Life returned to its slow rhythm, feeding chickens, stitching cloth, baking loaves, visiting neighbors. She thought maybe the whole thing had faded away like a bad dream, until the letter arrived. Not hand-delivered like most, not passed through a neighbor's boy or tied to a basket of eggs. This one came by mail, sealed in a white envelope, addressed by hand. She opened it with careful fingers. Inside, a folded sheet of lined paper. The handwriting was messy, uneven. She read it once, then again. It was from him, the officer. He didn't use his title, didn't call her ma'am or defendant or driver. He just wrote, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say I was wrong. I judged you by your clothes, by your silence. I thought you wouldn't fight back. I thought no one would believe you. I've been told to stay quiet during the investigation, but I needed to say something." She paused, then read on. "I grew up thinking power meant control, that wearing a badge gave me the right to decide who mattered. That night, I saw a bonnet and thought, easy. But when I walked into that courtroom the next day and saw you sitting tall, surrounded by truth, I realized I wasn't in control at all." He signed it with only his first name. No rank, no badge number. She folded the paper again and sat with it in her lap. The wind outside picked up and carried the scent of the earth through the open window. She didn't smile, but she didn't frown either. Forgiveness wasn't a door she could open in one day, but she could sit beside it and, maybe in time, turn the handle. The sun was setting behind the hills when she stood near the edge of her field, skirt brushing tall stalks of corn, arms folded gently across her chest. The sky was painted with soft orange and lavender, quiet and warm, like a story gently closing its last page. She thought about everything that had happened. The flashing lights, the cold cuffs, the courtroom, and that letter. She hadn't shown it to anyone, not yet. It wasn't for them. It was for her. A piece of truth sent quietly, without force, without pride. And though it didn't erase what he'd done, it said something rare. It said, "I see you now." She didn't need to reply. Her silence would carry more than any words could. Back in the house, her sisters were setting the table. A candle burned low near the window. The scent of warm soup drifted through the air. Laughter echoed softly from the back porch where the neighbor's children played with her younger brother's old whittled toys. Life had returned. Not the same, but deeper somehow, wiser. At church the next Sunday, no one avoided her. In fact, they sat closer. When the bishop spoke, he paused at one point and glanced her way. "There are times," he said slowly, "when the quiet among us must speak. And when they do, may their words land with truth, and may their hearts remain kind." She bowed her head, not in shame, not in fear, but in quiet strength. That morning, as she swept the porch, she saw a woman from town walking up the road. Not Amish, not from her world, but carrying a basket of peaches and a little girl by the hand. The woman waved. The girl smiled. "Are you the lady from the video?" the girl asked. The Amish woman paused, then nodded gently. "Yes, I am." The girl's eyes lit up. "You're brave." She didn't know what to say, but maybe she didn't have to say anything, because the truth had already been spoken. And sometimes, the last word isn't a word at all. It's a life lived quietly, but powerfully, with dignity that no badge could ever take away.